Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Kaylee and today I'm going to be doing my best books of 2017. So in the year of 2017 I only read 22 books and my goal was 75, so that's clearly a much smaller amount of books than I had wanted to read. And the reason for that is in the middle of the summer I kind of got into a reading slump, and then when my senior year of high school started and I had college applications and a ton of other stressful things going on, that reading slump just kind of continued throughout the year, and here we are only having read 22 out of 75 books. However, that being said, the first half of the year I did a lot of good reading, and a lot of the books that I read I really enjoyed, and I organized this list in chronological order from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, with no regard to which one my favorite or least favorite of the favorites is. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So the first two books I have here are actually part of a series, and that series is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. This book series includes The Summer I Turned Pretty, It's Not Summer Without You, and We'll Always Have Summer. So I read the last two books in this series at the beginning of 2017 and I really enjoyed them, and I'm not going to go into depth about what those books are about because obviously that would give spoilers to the first book, but I will give you a little synopsis of what this entire series is about. Basically, this series is about a girl named Belly who goes to this beach house every single summer where she shares the house with two brothers, one who she's been in love with for her whole life and the other who's been in love with her for her whole life. And I know this seems like your typical love triangle story, but it's really not. Throughout the series, she shows her relationship with the boy she thought she was in love with, she develops a relationship with the boy who was in love with her, and she ultimately has to decide which one is going to be the person she ends up with. Again, this series sounds super cheesy. It kind of is, but almost in a good way. If you're into contemporary at all, I would definitely recommend this book series, and I would definitely recommend reading it in the summer. I read the last two books in January, which doesn't really make sense. If you're looking for a beachy, summery, dramatic read, then I would definitely recommend this book series. So the next book I have here is Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. Morgan Matson is honestly one of my favorite authors. I definitely love all of her books, but I do have to say this was my least favorite out of all of the books I've read from her so far, other than the first book in her series that she wrote under the pseudonym Katie Finn. I didn't really enjoy that book that much, but it was one of her first books. This was one of her first books under Morgan Matson, and while I really enjoyed it, obviously because it's on my best books of 2017 list, I do have to say it's not one of my favorites of her books. However, this book is about a girl named Amy who's gotten in a car crash a year or so earlier, and her mother wants her to move across country from California to the East Coast, but the only problem is she doesn't want to drive. So instead, her mother enlists this boy named Roger who is going to drive with her across the coast, and in the course of the book they fall in love. Obviously that's what this book is about, but there are so many other things in this book that make it so great. Other than a slightly predictable storyline, this book was really good. It definitely has a lot to do with self-discovery and discovering yourself while getting to know someone else, and definitely testing your limits beyond what you're comfortable with, and that's one of the reasons I really enjoyed this book this year. So the next book on this list is Vanishing Girls by Lauren Oliver. This book is about two sisters, Dara and Nick, and Dara's face has been scarred by an accident they were both in, and when the story starts, Dara goes missing and Nick is on a quest to find her, to find out what happened to her, and along the way she finds out a lot of other things about her life, about her sister's life, about her family's life. This book is honestly more of a psychological thriller than I made it seem. I made it seem more like a contemporary, but at the end there is a huge twist, so if you like books like that, then I would definitely recommend this book, and it definitely had a good element of mystery throughout the entire story. The next book on this list is Why We Broke Up by Daniel Handler, aka Lemony Snicket. I did not expect to like this book as much as I did. Honestly, when I was reading it, I was like, this book isn't that great, but it kind of crept up on me how great this book actually was. This is about a girl who has a box of all of her things with her boyfriend Ed, and she's going to break up with him, and she writes this letter to him that she's going to deliver with him, saying what each of the things means to her, and you kind of get to see their love story play out, but you also know at the end that they're gonna break up and it's really sad, but you also see the reality of life. I think in a lot of books it just ends very happily and it wraps up really nicely, and in this book you kind of realize that just because it doesn't have a happy ending doesn't mean that the journey to that ending wasn't amazing. I would definitely recommend this to every single person watching this video. So the next book I have here is kind of just a fun contemporary, and that book is Royce Rolls by Margaret Stohl. This book was about a family like the Kardashians. They have a reality TV show, and it is announced to them that their show will be ending. Now, the main character of this book, Bentley, is very excited that it's going to be ending, but of course her family, who's always been in the spotlight, doesn't know what to do with their lives or how to react to this news. This book was just a really funny story about self-discovery in the spotlight. I would definitely recommend this book to anyone who's looking for kind of a more fun, lighthearted read. So the next book I have here was probably my favorite sequel of 2017, not that I read that many sequels in 2017, and that book is Blood for Blood by Ryan Graudin. This is the second book in the Wolf by Wolf duology by Ryan Graudin, and this is a really complicated story to describe, but I'll just say it's about if Hitler won, and now there is a motorcycle race every single year, and the winner gets to meet Hitler and have this party with Hitler. So the year before this story takes place, the winner of the motorcycle race was actually a girl, and she is running again, but really it is a shapeshifter who is in a Jewish concentration camp and got experimented on, so now she can change how she looks, and she takes over for this girl pretending to be her and embarks on a journey to try to kill Hitler. This book was so good. I loved this book. The first book was amazing, and I'm really happy that this one did not disappoint. And if you're into any kind of historical fiction mixed with fantasy, then I would definitely recommend this book, because it's just a reworking of history that is kind of fun to look at and see what the world might be like if Hitler had won. The next book I have here is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This book I read for English class in the spring, but we didn't get to finish it before school ended, so she let us take it home and read it over the summer, and I read it and I really loved it. I think I either gave it a 4 or 5 stars. Not really sure how many stars I gave it, but this book is about a future world where basically everyone has been cut off from money. It's basically a totalitarian government. There's no more democracy, there's no more choice in life, and this girl has to become a handmaid, which is basically someone who will have babies with people who can't have babies and are high up in society. I would definitely recommend this book if you liked Alias Grace or if you liked the TV show for this, because this book was amazing. So the next book I have here is honestly one of my favorite books of 2017, and that book is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. This book was amazing, and if you haven't heard of it by now, I don't know what you're doing, because I think every single person in the booktube community and in the book community has heard of this book. This book is about a girl named Star, and she is at a party one night that gets busted by cops, and her friend is shot. And this story is about the aftermath of the shooting, dealing with being racially profiled, discriminated against, and honestly just an amazing eye-opening book that I really enjoyed, and I would definitely recommend to every single person. I of course gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, and this was just an amazing book. I know it's becoming a movie, and I also know that Angie Thomas is writing another book, and I'm definitely going to be reading whatever she puts out because I loved this book. The next book I have here is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This book takes place over the course of one day, and it's about a girl who is a Jamaican immigrant and being deported back to Jamaica that night, and the son of Chinese immigrants who put a lot of pressure on him to embrace his culture and be who they want him to be. And they are in New York City and they meet on the last day they have to spend together. Obviously this is a very cheesy storyline, but it still had so much meaning about what it's like to be different in America and not be what other people expect you to be, what your parents expect you to be, what your friends expect you to be. I really enjoyed this book, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who likes contemporary and anyone who likes having very diverse main characters. Alright, so now we're on the last book of my best books of 2017 list, and the book I have here is Night Film by Marissa Peschel. This book was amazing. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because it took me so long to read because of my reading slump, but it honestly was such a great book, and I would definitely recommend this to anyone who likes adult mystery thrillers. It was definitely very suspenseful. It is about a girl who is the daughter of a cult movie maker, and she commits suicide, and this journalist is trying to find out the truth of what happened to her. He goes on a journey, and along the way he makes some friends and he finds out some cool things about the industry of cult movie making, and he also finds out a lot of truths about humanity that he would never have thought about or realized before he went on this journey. I would definitely recommend this book to anyone who's looking for a more mature and serious read while still wanting that creepy and mysterious edge to it. I would definitely recommend this book and all the other books I put on this list. Before I end this video, I'm going to quickly cover what my goals for 2018 are. So my first goal is obviously my reading goal, and that is to read 75 books. Normally I like to up the ante every year for how many books I want to read, but since I only read 22 last year, I think sticking to the same goal this year is a good place to start. My second goal for 2018 is to upload videos 1 to 2 times per week and be very consistent with it. I really want to get into booktubing more. I got a new camera for Christmas and I'm really excited to read more, put out more content, make friends in the booktube community, and just kind of interact more with the booktube community. My next goal is to start a bookstagram. As I said, I got a camera for Christmas. I have a lot of beautiful books and I would love to share them on Instagram. My next goal is to read the books I've owned the longest. There are some books that have been on my TBR list since I was 13 and I've owned them since I was 13. In the case of Cinder, I own the entire series and I haven't even read the first book. So my goal is to just kind of get through more of some of my older books before reaching for the newer books. But that being said, my last goal is to buy a healthy mix of old releases and new releases, because sometimes I find myself only buying the old releases that I want and have wanted for a long time, but I also know that I need to keep up with the new releases and kind of catch up with what everyone else is currently reading. And I'm not going to be making a most anticipated releases of 2018 video, but I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below to this blog I found that has basically every single YA release for the entire year. That is all for this video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye!